All right, all right. Welcome to another episode of Rooting for Laundry. This is episode 23. I'm your host, Johnny McDonald. Follow us at Root for Laundry on IG and Twitter, as you see on the ticker. Today is an exciting episode, episode 23. We review the Beast, Brock Lesnar. If you know about Brock Lesnar, WWE superstar, WWE champion, former NCAA amateur wrestling champion, signed with WWE in 2000. And we're going to have a fun show because we're going to have two fun guests on. Joining me today is a well-renowned MC and host and the pride of Toronto, Canada. Give it up for I Am All Talk himself, Donovan Fernandes.
Yes.
What's up, bro? How you doing, man?
Not bad, man. Just enjoying myself here. Back here. Tito.
You muted out, bro. Can you unmute yourself? Oh, I think I muted you. Are you?
There we go.
Yeah, you're there.
There
we go.
Here. Yeah.
Now I got a lot of editing to do.
Or as Mike Goldberg would say, I'm the pride of my, the pride of my village. So.
Yeah. And I'm bringing on my next guest. He is a comedian based out of Long Island. He is known as the Long Island Loser. Give it up for Michael Zimmelman.
What's up, guys?
How
you doing, Johnny? Feel
Thank
good,
you
man.
for joining.
Thanks for having me. No
Thank you for joining us, man. Yeah, so let's get into it. Brock Lesnar.
The Beast.
The Beast incarnate. Yeah, there's so many names. He has to go. He made his WWE debut in 2002 on March 18th. And in his debut, he comes out with his manager and his good friend Paul Heyman, and he interrupts a hardcore triple threat match, and he decimates everybody in the ring when he comes out. Donovan, I'll start with you. What was your first reaction when you seen this huge guy with a big tattoo of a skull on his back?
Yeah, first up, I got to give a little shout out to Canada because that happened in Canada right after WrestleMania 18. So that's a little.
Oh, it did, yeah.
And it was bad. Like when he hit Spike Dudley with that, I can't remember what move it was.
I mean, it was a triple power bomb. He just picked him up 3 times. Yeah, it was very
right through the. It was right through the garbage can.
Yeah.
It was insane. It was insane. But see, that was one of the reveals of a big monster, and we never got one of those in a very, 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 very long time. So it was effective. It was effective. Much better than a Giant Gonzalez release, you know? So
Yeah.
Especially with the ring gear too. Definitely better ring gear than
And Michael, not only that is just seeing a guy. We have big guys, Undertaker, Kane, and tall Big Show, but like just a guy that jack, just all like his all neck, his trap muscles are like the size of all 3 of us. Like, how did you feel when you first witnessed like the look of this guy?
Dude, the second I saw Brock Lesnar hit that ring, I just saw this potential that this guy would have. Like, I mean, the devastation he left out of the ring, and as Donovan mentioned earlier, that vicious power bomb on Spike Dudley. Like, this is a man that
triple power bomb.
Right, man. Yeah, just one after the other, man.
Mm-hmm.
I loved how they were able to do that debut. It made Brock look really strong, and it just really got the crowd like engaged for a debut to be like, okay, we'll see where this can go. Like, it's an interesting like start to a storyline.
Yeah. So let's review like the whole 2002. He wins King of the Ring in June, and then in August, SummerSlam, he beats The Rock to become the youngest WWE champion. Nassau. I was actually there. I was like, final row. Yeah, that's one of my favorite moments.
Awesome, man.
And then The Rock getting booed out the building was insane. I mean,
it was like almost like a heel turn, like a Hogan Rock again. It was like people just.
I saw it more because people know, we as wrestling fans, unfortunately, we know too much now. And
we're so well informed.
It was at the point we knew The Rock was going to film a movie. So The Rock, Brock too. I mean, you got to give credit to Brock because like everybody sees the young potential in him. So yeah, I mean, people were cheering Brock, but they were also booing The Rock because they knew he was leaving. And you know, wrestling fans, we are the best fans and the worst fans by far.
Oh, absolutely. We're so easily to turn on people, and just especially with Twitter now, like we can blast anybody from, it's just like one botch and it's like, oh my God, this guy's career's over.
But it's so much worse where you guys live and where I live. Toronto and New York, we're, as the king would say, we're bizarro worlds, right? So
yeah,
but we are the most bizarre out of the bizarro worlds. So.
Well, listen, you're in prime heart territory, man. I mean, again, Canadian wrestling is treated almost like a religion over there. Man.
Yeah. Not to mention Brock Lesnar is now one of your countrymen too. He's a Canadian citizen.
Oh, he's now reigning out of Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
that's like in the middle of nowhere, by the way.
Yeah, well, he's probably shooting something. Yeah. Literally.
Sable.
Yeah.
Getting marked down sloppy seconds, man.
Yeah. So yeah, the youngest champion at 25. I'm gonna fast forward to WrestleMania 19, 2003 in Seattle. He has that match. The main event versus Kurt Angle, another amateur wrestler, amateur background, former Olympian. It's a good match, and then this happens.
The shooting stars press.
And they said he's hit that move consistently before he came up from developmental. It was a move that he did. And I want to say I'll ask Michael first. What do you think if he hit that move? Would that be like holy shit? We see Brock Lesnar not only as a dominant presence, but also as he has a potential to be a high flyer, like an all around big man champion that can do cruel things.
Well, I mean, first of all, if he had hit that shooting star press, I thought it would have definitely been better than anything Billy Kidman did. Because you ever notice what Billy Kidman did? He always would somehow turn like close on the ropes and stuff. But man, like that night, him and Kurt Angle absolutely delivered in that ring. To this day, it's for me personally, it was like the first WrestleMania I really remembered. So to see two guys like that, plus both these guys really played a role for me getting into like freestyle wrestling when I was younger to get into middle school and high school. But it's just, it was a star making moment to capitalize it. I think it did more for Brock's career than even beating The Rock for especially that WrestleMania stage. So
because he headlined, he made event too.
Yeah,
exactly.
In his first year. But for me, listen, I know we're talking all about Brock today, but for me, it was about Angle and wrestling with a broken neck. I was cringing every time he took a bump. I wasn't enjoying that match as much. I was really worried for Angle, really worried for him, right? But both those guys have just neck beast neck. Right there, so.
Yeah, from amateur wrestling, it's like, it's probably like in their genes and in their, DNA to just have that. But
actually,
I mean,
I was gonna say one of the things. So with Brock Lesnar doing that, they had Team Angle too with Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. Yeah, so Shelton Benjamin and Brock Lesnar, they go way back. Not just
college roommates.
Exactly, college roommates and coaches at Shelton Benjamin was Brock's assistant coach at University of Minnesota. So like that's just cool to see him be along for the ride that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that he ends up winning the WWE Championship, and then I'll fast forward to the next WrestleMania, where the rumors are swirling now. A week prior, WrestleMania 20, Madison Square Garden. That's another one I went to. But the rumors are swirling the week prior that Brock was leaving to pursue an NFL career. And like I said, internet, we know too much. And once that got out, and he goes against Bill Goldberg, who was also leaving after the WrestleMania. So that match was a recipe for disaster either way. The crowd knows, the crowd is smart, especially a New York crowd. And they're both getting booed out the building. So Donovan, I guess I'll ask you, talk about watching that Mania fiasco, Goldberg versus Brock.
On paper, even the build-up, everything was perfect, and like you
have
two monsters going at it. I think the anticipation was stronger for their Toronto rematch. Sorry, I'm keeping this more Canadian things. Yeah. So I think everything was just set up perfectly, and then you had Austin.
Austin as a special guest referee kind of saved the match. He kind of like, all right, when these guys are getting booed, he kind of like, all right, I'm going to step in at least to give somebody something good.
Yeah. And it was just like incredible. I was like, wow. And then all of a sudden that day, now, funny enough, I didn't have access to the internet as much as I did then. So like, I kind of picked up on it, and my friends were telling me as we were watching, I'm like, okay, damn. And then just with the crowd reacting, and it's funny, Goldberg and Lesnar slightly interacted with the crowd and kind of paid attention to what was going on with all the boos. And from there, I think the match was it was a flop. I
think both of them didn't care. Would you say the same, Michael? I think like both of them, they were out the door, and they're like, I don't give a
absolutely. Shit. I can't tell which was uglier, the lockup or Brock's weird goatee that he had during the match, man.
Yeah.
But you couldn't expect this to really go like as awesome as it was built up, especially because when you look back at Bill's career, he's never been a guy who could go for more than 15 minutes. He always needs somebody to carry that match. And I don't think Brock was just there yet to really deliver on, especially the build-up for it. But both these guys were just like, I want to get out of here. Brock wants to go to Minnesota. Fine, go ahead.
But what a way to exit, though. It's like, I want to get out of here. Usually you just want to give it your all, especially at WrestleMania. So I guess like the attitude for those guys, they got what they deserved, right? And
Stone Cold was the star. Goldberg ends up winning the match, and Stone Cold stuns both of them.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
Especially
So Brock's literally out the door. And then Lesnar shows up NFL. He's signed with the Vikings he does the NFL Combine. April 17th of that year, 2004, he gets into a accident with his motorbike, and he suffered a broken jaw and a bruised left hand and a bruised pelvis and a pulled groin. And a lot of teams were interested in Brock. I mean, like probably it's a media circus, but also, he looks the part. He's huge. You know what I'm saying? I think he played defensive lineman, and the Minnesota they signed him in Minnesota, and he signs in the preseason. I'll start with you, Michael, since it's American football. Did you watch some I guess games or highlights with Lesnar? And
yeah, I was able to take a look at some of the preseason action, and a lot of people, especially thinking back at that time frame, for a team like Minnesota, it kind of made sense. I mean, Brock hadn't played football since high school, but you just know that natural explosiveness he has from his legs, that he could have made an impact. Plus, that Vikings team was pretty solid. I mean, they still had Dante Culpepper,
Randy Moss,
was still there,
team.
man.
Yeah,
and I just felt like it would have been interesting to see. It's just such a disappointment, though, that he couldn't really get a chance to compete.
Yeah, Donovan, talk about when you learned about Brock Lesnar going to football, and did you watch any highlights or whatever?
No. Once, it's still real to me.
It's only the
CFL, yeah. So once he's checked out, I checked out. I carried on watching wrestling, and I know what's going to happen next, the transition, and then we get the buzz, right? So
Brock ends up he's actually offered to play for the NFL Europe team that's affiliated with the Vikings, but he declined because he didn't want to leave the States. So that makes sense. And then there was another rumor after that Brock had a meeting with Vince about him returning to WWE, but at the end of the day, it was just a meeting. He didn't end up following through, and then he didn't sign. So Brock's in limbo. He has no football career now. He has no WWE career. So then he goes to Japan.
Yeah.
And wrestles for New Japan. In October 8th, 2005, he wins the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in his on his debut match. It was a three-way match, and he won. I mean, a lot of people don't know that Brock is also IWGP champion, which is, to me, one of the most prestigious, if not the most prestigious title in all of pro wrestling.
Absolutely,
in my opinion.
Man. Yeah, especially the way Okada and this new generation came along with Shinsuke Nakamura and Hiroshi Tanahashi after 2010, and how popular New Japan got. But it was just, at that time, it was financially one of the worst times for New Japan. So
I remember, they were talking about going out of business.
Wow. Dude, and then, they had that partnership with TNA Wrestling that kind of allowed the Rudders to go for a little bit more, but it's just disappointing to see that nothing really big could have come out of
I mean, the one thing that partnership with TNA, which is now Impact, they Brock Lesnar got to wrestle Kurt Angle again during for Antonio Inoki's promotion IGF, which they had one match, and that was Brock's last match in pro wrestling before he started his MMA career. So that was interesting for them to tangle up again. And
who went over?
I think it was Angle. I'm pretty sure.
I think it was Angle. Yeah,
for the title for a bit.
Yeah. But it was in Antonio's Inoki short-lived promotion in IGF. So I'll get to his first MMA fight. Was in June 2nd. He's supposed to fight Hungman Choi. I don't know if you've seen Hungman Choi before. He's a huge guy. He fought Fedor, I believe. But that was his match. But Hungman Choi had to pull out. So he fights his Brock Lesnar's MMA debut is on June 2nd, 2007 against Min Soon Kim his replacement, also a Korean. And I just recently watched it, and he just does what Brock does. He's a wrestler at heart all his life. He takes him down and just pounds the hell out of him. And then Kim taps out at
1 minute and like
1 minute, yeah. 9 seconds. So you see the pedigree there. You see like he's built to like, all right, now he's gonna whip some ass. And also, I wanted to mention before when WWE, like in the Attitude Era and UFC was out, like Ken Shamrock to me was the first notable guy to cross over from MMA into pro wrestling.
Yeah.
But then a lot of people, because wrestling's so hot with, you know, the Monday Night Wars and stuff, a lot of guys follow. So it was like down that time around 98, 99, Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, Tank Abbott, a lot of guys who like were looking for that WWE money when the WWE was just smoking hot. But now when Brock Lesnar goes to MMA, it's like it's the other way around. Kurt Angle talks about it all the time. He wishes he could have been in the UFC in some way, shape, or form. He even said, I think Dana White offered him Angle to do the Ultimate Fighter, if I'm not mistaken.
That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome if Angle was in there.
A dream fight for me would have been if Kurt Angle went to the UFC. Imagine in their primes, Kurt Angle versus Randy Couture, bro. If Angle was able to get a quality striking coach, like just imagine how the potential that could have been.
Yeah, and not to mention wrestling is like the main base of most wrestlers. If you have a collegiate background, or if you're a great high level amateur wrestler, you're gonna do well in MMA. That's what it seems like. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah, like totally. Sorry to cut you off.
It's okay.
It's like, I think for me personally, like with especially this newer generation of wrestlers, we've seen it from Khabib and the Dagestani wrestling camps, Daniel Cormier, Randy Couture, that the collegiate wrestler makes it a little bit easier to transition there. Well, that and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too. So like, I think if you're going to transition into mixed martial arts, if you have like some experience with BJJ and wrestling, you're like a bit of a leg up from the guys who are just coming from striking, because you're used to working off your back and sweeping guard and stuff.
Oh
yeah. So it's definitely like Lesnar's tailor-made to do well in the UFC. So let's get to his UFC debut. UFC 81, February 2nd, 2008.
Where were you?
He fights former champion, heavyweight champion Frank Mir, and that's his first UFC debut. And Brock looks good out the gate. Like I said, again, very powerful, takes him down. But that rookie mistake, rookie mistake, he leaves his leg out, and Frankie's probably one of the best, if not the best, heavyweight jiu-jitsu guy in MMA. He catches him. And Donovan, I'll ask, like, talk about you when you watch that fight and be like, oh man, you muted.
There we go. Sorry about that. That's me.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, Frank. Yeah, talk about the Frank Mir fight, the first Frank Mir fight.
Again, as you said, as soon as the as soon as the ref said go, Brock went at him. Like I think Brock could have won the fight, but again, there was that one little mistake, that one little rookie mistake, and that was it, and that's what cost him, right? But that set up a good rematch too down the.
Yeah, lack of experience. Yeah. Right. Wouldn't you say that, Michael? It's like lack of experience on Brock's part.
Oh, totally. And I think when you look back at it after he got the double leg too, Brock was doing really well with the ground and pound. But the referee, he saw that when you watch the fight, he was getting some shots on Mir in the back of the head. And so I think that kind of threw Brock off his game too. It's like Mir has a chance to recover. He let him get back up on his feet. So I just think Brock got a little overzealous when he was trying to go for that finish, but still a good job for his first fight.
Yeah, definitely.
And amazing. So, I think it was a win for him too, right? Like,
totally.
It really just shined. Like we got to see who Brock was, and I think a lot of times, like Brock probably went in with a lot of the media and a lot of like people just signifying him as a pro wrestler, WWE pro wrestler.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wiping out the fact that he's one hell of a college wrestler. Like,
Yeah.
he's a great wrestler. And, so I think he had a lot of things going for him, but he also had a lot of things going against him, right?
Yeah.
And so he had to fight off quite a bit. So kudos to him on that debut.
Yeah. So I'll fast forward to the next fight. August of the same year, 2008, he fights Heath Herring. He's supposed to fight Mark Coleman, UFC Hall of Famer, in Minnesota. They're both from Minnesota, so it's like a Minnesota theme going. But Heath Herring is the replacement, and another great showing. I rewatched that fight again, and out the gate, Brock blasts him with a right, sends him down, and then
the charge from
like charge, it's like the speed of a cheetah. Yeah, it's like a rhino just coming at him, and he dominated the whole fight. He wins unanimous decision. So it goes to show you, like, all right, I got this right now. I'm ready to.
As us being like smaller gentlemen, imagine just being like in the eyes of Heath Herring, just looking like seeing this big guy just come charging at you. Wow.
Yeah.
Exactly, man. Like, and plus Heath's no small guy himself, but Brock was charging at him. It was like somebody with Myles Garrett's size mixed with like Tyreek Hill's speed, just flowing like all the way down the field. Like, you have no idea what to do.
I'm happy it went the distance too, right? I'm happy, because it showed that yes, he has he has the punching power and he has the the wrestling base, but here it showed that he could go the distance and still be fresh by the end.
Yeah. So he beat him. So next he moves on to get that title shot against Randy Couture, and this is in the same year, 2008. It's November 15th, UFC 91, and Lesnar beats Couture TKO, second round knockout. He was just too much. You see the size different. Randy was also, he didn't fight for a while. He held out because he was the interim champion, and there was supposed to be a fight against Randy and Fedor, but they couldn't get the job to. Yeah, Dana White could never just sign Fedor at all, and but Brock came in, and that was basically Brock's coming out party. Now he's the UFC heavyweight champion.
I didn't expect. I thought they were going to give him like another fight before Randy, but like, wow, what a way to draw money. I think that was like.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. You can't ignore the drawing power of Brock Lesnar now, because coming from WWE. Like I said, whenever a wrestler steps outside, wrestling fans, I was like, we're the best and worst out of all people because we'll follow those people. Like, look at The Rock's film and TV career. You know what I'm saying? He's literally the highest paid actor in the world right now. So it's like, wrestling fan. I think wrestling fans, they'll stick with you, regardless whether you like them or hate them. They will pay attention. Yeah. And that pay-per-view UFC 91 drew $1 million. I mean, a million pay-per-view wise. Yeah. So that was and ever since then,
anytime he went on,
in the million, all his pay-per-view, he's a draw. That's why Dana White, whenever you hear Brock's WWE contract expires, Dana White's on the phone like, hey, you wanna I don't care. Do you want to fight? I don't care.
It's either Brock Lesnar on, or you have another super fight. Like I think GSP and BJ Penn was the other one that drew over $1 million. Right? Yeah, and after that, it's all Brock.
Yeah, but Brock always draws. So that was a big deal. He ended up now he's the UFC heavyweight champion. So after that, Lesnar doesn't fight till UFC 100, July 11, 2009. That's one of their biggest pay-per-views. One of my favorite pay-per-views, UFC pay-per-views whenever I watch, because that card was so stacked. I mean, you had Bisping versus Dan Henderson with that knockout, and they were on the Ultimate Fighter, so you saw the build-up. Yeah. Then GSP versus Thiago Alves, who was like, Alves was a big dude, and might have been a contest for GSP, but really not. And then you get the rematch, the second fight of Brock Lesnar versus Frank Mir. So I'll ask you, Donovan, first. Going into that fight and watching it, how did you feel about the rematch?
It put Brock again on the map. It legitimized him, right? It he he really kicked the crap out of Frank Mir.
Massacred him.
Like, you know what I mean? And but I was really kind of disappointed with his attitude at the end after he won. He really just like, he should have showed a little more class because like that's a day that where everyone's eyes are on the UFC. I think that was one of the highest pay-per-view buy rates
ever. Yeah. 100 pay-per-view. That's a big deal.
Yeah, so I really think that they could have, he could have handled himself a little more, but he dominated Frank Mir. He dominated and really brutalized him. Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, tell me, about your watching that one.
I mean, when I saw it, it was just he executed an unbelievable game plan. Like he was able to avoid that distance between him and Frank. Like he knew he couldn't beat Frank on the ground, so he had to just charge full speed ahead. And I just loved how he was able to just keep he was great to be able to stay chest to chest because like in jiu-jitsu, this way it wouldn't allow Frank to be able to try to sweep guard or try to get out of there. He just held him down, ground and pound. Beautiful job. But can I just talk about after the fight? Personally, Donovan, I know you didn't like it, but as a fan, I was dying laughing, especially that part he tells Frank when Brock says, listen, I told Frank Mir a year ago he had a horseshoe up his ass. I pulled it out, I beat him over the head with it. Whoa!
Well, I guess, like for the sport and for like the entertainment of the sport.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
How can you ask for,
One thing I do remember about that fight when Frank, like Brock had him on the ground and had him in Mir in a lock where he couldn't move and he was just pounding his face in. Just hocking back. And it was just like, it was vicious. That I've never seen a vicious, that might be the most vicious beatdown I ever seen because he had him pinned in an uncompromising position. And Frank Mir wasn't going to get out of that.
You feel bad for him in a way, eh?
And he cocked back.
And plus Lesnar's hands too. Lesnar had to have special gloves. This man has triple XL gloves on. It's like getting hit with a meat mallet, dude.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like I would cry. I wouldn't imagine have to tolerate.
Have you ever seen the Jim Ross? I think someone did like a parody of of that fight, and like you see Brock Lesnar just wailing on Frank Mir, and then you hear Jim Ross, he's killed him. He's killed him. Straight to hell.
And killed him. He did, man.
Oh man.
So after that was a great moment, but after that it kind of goes downhill because he had health concerns. Probably that there was a big gap between that fight and his next fight. He had like November of 2009 he had mono, and then he caught diverticulitis, which really derails.
Who was he supposed to be fighting that November? There was a big fight, and then he had to pull out, and then who were we stuck with?
Well, it was
Forrest Griffin and
I think it was the Carwin fight at first, right? But they had
there was Forrest Griffin and Tito Ortiz too had to replace. Had to replace.
And the buy rates, by the way, dropped for that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like 100,000s. Yeah.
And then they booked him for 106. And there was a title number one contender fight between Frank Mir and Shane Carwin. And Shane Carwin ended up going to win. And
but I'm just going to say on that card in November, the one that Tito and Forrest Griffin. What was the original fight? Was it Carwin?
It was Lesnar and whoever won that fight. So it would have been Carwin. But Carwin ended up winning the number one contendership. So they finally fight at UFC 116 on July 3rd, 2010. So he has like almost a year and a half off, and just getting his health in order. He even had to get surgery on his on his colon, like his intestine. Like I think they had to remove like 12 inches of his colon or something like that. It's really, really bad. So I can imagine fighting. I probably wouldn't even want to fight after that. But Brock takes a different approach in this fight. He beats Shane Carwin via an arm triangle choke submission. And once again he looks good. He's like, all right, now it's like his career is coming to fruition. He can go down as being the greatest heavyweight of all time.
But you skipped like the biggest part, the beating of Brock Lesnar, round number 1.
Lesnar took a huge beat down.
He did.
Carwin.
Yeah, he did.
And if this was any other ref, I think any other ref.
Any other ref, Carwin would be champ then.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
You got like
Lesnar
you get lucky. You get lucky, and then I'm fighting back. I didn't want to make that an issue because he's coming back off the health
Oh
issue.
no, of
So it's
course.
like,
No. But either way, I'm trying to say any other result or any other ref, it would have been a different landscape. We would have been in the.
If Steve Mazzagatti was the ref, then it'd probably be
Oh
different.
my
He
God,
hates
don't
that
even
guy.
get me started on that guy.
He's one, yeah.
But
To quote Dana White, we all agree Steve Mazzagatti sucks.
Yeah.
But I like that right after round one, like just into round two, Brock just gives a big wink over to him. He's like, "Okay,
Oh yeah,
I know you are gassed out, buddy. I'm coming for you." And that's what, like, but just to see the resilience too of Brock Lesnar, you're right. It did show another light where he took one hell of a beating and was able to come back, and he, and it shows his chin is tough, and he was able to take it. And I gotta say, Mike, his attitude changed. He was he was a gracious champion.
He did a face turn.
champion.
It was like, but I agree with you, man. Like, he withstood a beating. And the thing I noticed the most is, especially when you take a look at Shane Carwin's fights beforehand, that fight against Lesnar was the first time that Shane had fought it with after the first round. He had first round finishes.
Knockouts. And he was undefeated. What is it, 9-0, right?
Yeah,
I'm not mistaken.
I was a huge fan of Shane Carwin. Huge fan. Right.
And plus, my dude was doing that while working full time as an engineer. Like, again, the training schedule with that's pretty dope, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to my engineer nerds out there.
Yeah.
But I really thought, honestly, that Carwin was going to take the belt. Like, my money was on Carwin. I'm like, this guy's a beast. And honestly, it was such a good feeling to see like an actual competitor against Brock Lesnar, right? Where it's kind of like it was not like a one-sided fight, and the promos going into it, everything going into it, I was so happy, which probably brings you up to like the next monster versus monster.
Yeah, with the next, but I mean, I give props to Brock for taking he took another fight right away. He
October
fought Cain Velasquez.
Cardio Cain, baby.
Yep, and Cain Velasquez, I would believe he was the favorite to win that fight all along, and just young and.
His cardio was just phenomenal.
Cardio and
dude.
And his boxing, And this is full bearded Brock too.
Yeah, Viking Brock.
Yeah, Viking Brock. So he goes UFC 121, another million pay-per-view buy. He loses TKO late in the first round, and Cain really took the soul out of Brock that night. So I'll ask Mike, did you think after that fight, did you think Brock might have been swaying out of the MMA game and be like, you know what, this might be it for me? Because it was punishment, and combined with his health issues, he might have been like, all right, I don't know, man, this might be it for me.
Yeah, it definitely took a toll on him, and especially with like coming back after something like mono and diverticulitis, that just like weakens your energy and stuff. And like you could tell, like it definitely affected his training camp too. Because when you watch that fight, Brock was like almost gassed halfway through the first round, and Cain Velasquez knew blood was in the water, so he had to strike, and then he just pounced all over him, man. So,
I remember like that weird backward roll that he did, and he got. Wow.
And he was like dazing his arms, like wait a minute, what do I do?
But he got back up and he was ready to go again. It's just Cain's boxing is so quick, and his movement is just impeccable.
Another career ended kind of early because he was always hurt after that.
Yeah.
Cain. And then he wrestled WWE and Mexican Lucha Libre and stuff like that, and he looked good wrestling wise. But and then remember he made that debut on SmackDown, the first Fox SmackDown. But the injuries now he's not around anymore.
But like I just want to bring up, like, in terms of Brock Lesnar, that set up a huge match. Everyone forgets, all right, he lost against Cain, but Cain's brother was in the crowd, and that set up a match 4 years down the line. Taker versus.
Yes. I mean, I meant to get to that. He walks out, and Undertaker being interviewed by Canada's own Ariel Helwani, and he walks by and he's like, "Hey, you want to do it?"
Well, what a setup! What a good setup!
Yeah, great setup. I mean, it was one of those things you don't know how real. Yeah,
wave the leaf, baby. Wave the leaf.
Yeah, you don't know how real or how you cross the line between realism and kayfabe, and just Taker coming up like want to do it.
Smart.
Like want to do what? Yeah.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
At
So
first, I thought when I saw that, I thought it was going to be just like, okay, maybe Taker's going the octagon. I mean, like he already had the gloves on from back in the day.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought,
true.
okay, let's go.
yeah, and he's a huge fight fan too,
It's
so
like,
he
do
might be like,
what?
hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still had that like triangle choke too when he was using as a finish.
Hell's Gate. Hell's Gate. Yeah. Yep. So after Brock's loss to Cain Velasquez, he does the ultimate season of the Ultimate Fighter with Junior Dos Santos, and they were supposed to set up
In
the fight
Vancouver too, yeah.
UFC 131 on June 11th, but the diverticulitis happened again. It acted up.
And then we got Carwin versus JDS then too.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So
And then
he had to
eventually we
withdraw.
got the trilogy JDS and Cain Velasquez after that too, man. Those were a great series of fights as well.
Yeah, JDS and Cain, if health would allow it, they probably would have had like 5 fights.
yeah,
because they would have
the
top
last
2 in
fight.
the game.
That rubber one just went on and on, but it was all Cain. And even like I gotta say, Cain's first loss. Again, it was a simple error, and that's it.
Yeah. So Lesnar underwent surgery May 27th to battle the problems, and a lot of just a lot of hard luck, man. And then summer 2011, they said Brock was coming back and he's ready, and he fights their big New Year's show December 30th, 2011, against former Strikeforce heavyweight champion, one of my personal favorites, Alistair Overeem. And so so that fight, bad result. Overeem knocks him out first round. And when he took that body shot, and when he just Brock just takes a knee after getting that hit. So that his health issues, the diverticulitis, is coming into play. So talk about that fight. I'll start with you, Donovan.
It was again well promoted fight, good build. It looked like, I think when Overeem started dominating and started getting his shots in there, like you kind of saw another weakness of Brock Lesnar. And then obviously when that shot to the midsection just hit, and then you just kind of see it. It was like slow motion.
Yeah,
there was like that space, and then all of a sudden Brock's like went down after. I'm like,
yeah. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, man. I just think that, especially with Overeem and Lesnar too, it's such a contrast in styles, especially Overeem's kickboxing background. It's just, it's frustrating too.
K1 champion, by the way. Yeah.
Exactly, man. I mean, for God's sakes, he knew the diverticulitis, so Overeem was going to go for the body right away. So you just knew it was coming. But I just look back at that and am disappointed. Only for Brock's coaching, because had the health problems not have existed, you wonder how much better he could have been had he developed at least some counters in his striking, or at least a little bit more cleaner boxing techniques too, and how even more power, how great the legacy could have been. So it's just frustrating to watch.
Yeah. So,
but just note, by the way, this was one of the Brock fights that did not get over 1 million.
Yeah,
there's one. Yep, the only one I was about to mention. The only one. Everything else, before going into Couture fight, on million draws, and probably the scheduling too. It was New Year's Eve, so to speak, December 30th. I mean, but in the New Year's Eve weekend, it's probably like, everybody's worried about other things. So I never
brought this up, but like I used to throw events in bars, right? And I would.
I remember we talked about.
And then we used to rent it off. So like anytime you saw Brock Lesnar, we're all like, yes, we're all going home with some money today, right? People are gonna come in
and, baby.
Yeah. Drew money for everybody.
No, but like that's what it is, right? And even like, for example, GSP, when he fought to like the place with Sawa, and then obviously when John Jones started, making his rank too, like those were some big money names. Other than that, Forrest Griffin versus Tito.
Yeah, that was a terrible one. But that was Brock's. Brock retires at the time. He says this is the last time you'll see me in the octagon, and right, it's understandable at this point. So April 2nd, 2012, right after WrestleMania, Brock returns to WWE. I admit, I was shocked.
Dude, I marked out so bad for that.
I did too.
I was going nuts when they saw him.
Were you guys there for that one?
No,
No,
dude,
well,
that was in Florida, like right
that
after
was in Florida.
WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still in New York, so.
Yeah, and it was weird because like I usually the internet has a buzz. Well, Donovan, I'll ask you since me and Mike were shocked. Did you know about Brock going back?
Nope. I had
So
no idea.
it must
you
have
got
keep it
minor
real on
rumors,
time.
oh, that can't be. But I think WWE tweeted something just before, or as Cena was coming out, they tweeted something like they put it out. Guess who's back, right? But
Oh,
the
wow.
crowd, if you rewatch that segment, the crowd knew he was there.
Well, I mean,
You're-
you have those marks that really do that investigation, especially and probably if you're at the event, you're probably hanging out 12 hours before that, and you probably see some guy.
Yeah.
Like it's really hard to keep things under wraps. Like kayfabe and like wrestling is dead because like people investigate now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
but that was one of
re-
my favorite pops of all time.
Yeah.
Like when that music hit and he
it's
came out.
definitely-
oh yeah. I was shocked. The first time in a long time I had my mouth open. I was like, whoa, he's back. Especially I think because before he's like when he left the first time, he's always had bad things to say about pro wrestling. He's never like I thought like kind of like CM Punk. I was like, yeah, he's done. He doesn't like he really hates pro wrestling. But works to his effect now. I'm pretty sure Vince just threw him the money and he's like, I can work once a year. Okay, I'm sold. You know what I'm saying? So that had to be good too. Like I said, I didn't want to spend too much time on his wrestling career, but I'll bring up this one big thing during his coming back in 2012, and now the WrestleMania 30. Brock Lesnar, Undertaker. Another
eyes of that guy.
I need a moment. I just for all the Taker fans out there.
Yep, another holy shit moment. It was surreal. It was one of those things, but I liked it because if anybody you would believe to break the streak, it would be Brock Lesnar. So
I actually thought, so I know that we're not going to go talk too much about wrestling, but I actually thought that when he came, when it was like the match between him and Brock, I thought it was just another one for Taker to gain, and
absolutely, yeah.
I really did not think that Brock was going to go over, and yeah, I was shocked as
everybody else was.
Yeah.
Talk about you, Mike. Where were you? Where your reaction and.
Dude, I remember just watching that, and personally, on a personal note, one of my favorite WrestleManias ever. But just
not to mention the first WrestleMania on the WWE Network.
Exactly, available for
which I had
$9.99.
where I eventually had streaming problems.
I mean, yeah, it hurts you every month, but it's just the second. I remember just watching that match, especially after the third F5. I thought, okay, he's gonna kick out. He's gonna kick out.
Yep.
And then as soon as that 3 count, I was just like, I was frozen because, again, people don't. For us wrestling fans, the Undertaker's WrestleMania streak was one of the most, again, unofficial title basically, but it's just one of the biggest things. I'm one of the most respectable feats in this industry. So to see it end like that, it was shocking. But for WWE to capitalize with Brock later on for the storylines, it just made perfect sense. So looking back, fond memory.
The fact that there's no reffing mistakes or nothing like that. We all just turned on everything. Was that a mistake?
Yeah, we did. Everybody did.
Wait.
Everybody did.
Wait.
Especially
Is it real again?
Yeah, plus you remember the reports Taker collapsed backstage, so maybe if we thought, oh damn, that wasn't supposed to be the finish. Was that right?
Can we reverse the decision? But oh no, what a shock. I actually showed my wife the match, and she's just laughing. She's like, look at everybody.
Everybody. I mean, reaction.
Everybody.
You never forget the guy with the glasses in the front row and his face. It's priceless. Yeah, it's priceless. Everybody in the ring, and it was just a slow feel. People didn't get a grasp of it till it was like, wait, hold up, wait, we really? I remember being I usually have WrestleMania parties, and we were like, wait, hold up, what? Whoa, it's really happened. It's like, wait, what? And everybody's faces, the reactions were priceless. Also was priceless was on the big screen at. In New Orleans was the 21-1, and Paul Heyman's reaction yes, Brock's reaction yes,
perfect.
Sold it, yeah. Paul
I wish they
Heyman
didn't
just
tell him. I wish they didn't tell him. That would have been
Oh,
great. But I think
so
Paul would have been
much
like,
better.
a lot of people I don't think knew. Like I think Michael Cole was kind of like when he called it like really with subpar like
apparently only Vince,
just
Brock, Taker, and Heyman knew. That's it. Right?
yeah.
So
And it was always teetering. Like usually it's like a game time decision whether to call it like, all right, we're gonna put Brock over and like, all right. And it was
yeah,
just
no. What a okay. Yeah. No more WrestleMania 30 because like my heart's hurting right now.
Just think about Daniel Bryan. That's all we got to do.
Yeah, that was anything. Daniel Bryan stole the show, and I that's what I knew should have went down. I was like, yeah, that was a beautiful thing. So we'll fast forward to Brock, like, you know, his tenure in WWE was always like on a like year by year basis. Every time you hear his contract expires, like Dana White's on the phone, like, hey, you want to come and draw me another $1 million? And then March 2015, UFC announced that UFC 200, another big pay-per-view, supposed to be the biggest all time, but a lot of injuries and the pay-per-view didn't go the way it was. That pay-per-view was supposed to be stacked. DC John Jones, the women's title with Misha Tate and Amanda Nunes.
Mm-hmm.
And Brock on there was supposed to be really, really secret till they opened the promo. I
leaked it to the crowd.
Yeah. And it's supposed to be a big deal, Brock coming back.
Oh.
But the injuries really derailed. The main event ended up being Nunes and Misha Tate. Shout out to them. Headlining a big event. But
what another card though, like Cain Velasquez, Travis Brown, Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar, like big crowd.
I mean, DC and Anderson Silva, which we knew.
Yeah, that was just
didn't go the way it was. And all the fights, I mean, even though it still sounded like a good card in retrospect, but like just the card was like DC was just laying on Silva, basically. But then Brock fights Mark Hunt, and he bodies Mark Hunt, basically, punishes him, gets his hand raised, wins the fight. But then
USADA came a calling.
Yep, USADA came a calling. July 15th, he got tested popping positive for undisclosed banned substance. And on June 20, second sample test was taken on July 19th that same year, and he's tested positive. And he is banned. He's suspended for a year.
The streak is also reversed, and it's back to 20.
Yeah. So his final MMA record is 5 wins, 3 losses, and 1 no contest.
With the most money made.
Another $1 million pay-per-view. All right, Mike, I'll ask you first. Talk about that fight, him and Mark Hunt.
I mean, it was just Brock trying to do what he could. He wanted that wrestling to shine. There's no way you're going to try to stand toe-to-toe with somebody like with Mark Hunt's striking power. So I just loved the strategy he went in there. It's unfortunate that he got busted by USADA. He also got fined $250,000, which to this day, Brock has still not paid like a boss.
Yeah. Oh, man, and it's not like he doesn't have the money.
Oh, no, absolutely. He just doesn't want it. Yeah. He's like, I'm in Canada, man. Come on, you want to get that money? Go to Saskatchewan.
Yep.
Come to your
neck of the woods, man. Like, Donovan, you have USADA right now.
Donovan, talk about, I guess, watching that fight.
I was in Tokyo that day watching the fight. Actually, I had to wake up at like 7 a.m. to go.
Oh wow, that's right. Yeah, the time change.
You had a beer at 8 a.m. in the morning. I have. And it was cool. It was cool, like just to see him come out and do his thing. Like he added star power. He added star power to a card that was just falling off the face of the
Yep.
Like I think you should do another podcast just about UFC 200. Like
just the ups and downs.
Yeah. But he added star power. Okay. I think originally he was supposed to be the main event, but then rightfully so, they switched it back to.
Well, DC Jones was always the main event, but like yeah, that was because that had been a big deal. Like that card from the jump was supposed to be stacked. Yeah, GC, John Jones, Brock, and women's title Amanda Nunes, and Misha Tate. So yeah,
she's phenomenally.
yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But Brock, I was so happy to see him. Great striking, great dominance, great wrestling. You could not be happier with him, man.
Yeah. I'll fast forward now to UFC 226. Brock sitting in the crowd, and it's he issues a challenge to Daniel Cormier after his fight, and then he comes in. They start pushing. Does that
Work
playful
or not
like?
work? Please help me, because work or not a work.
Oh, it was definitely a work. I think the crowd could also be in on it because they were just like, "Oh, Brock's here." Like, okay.
And
that push just. Oh, that's a push.
Don't forget, DC is also a huge mark, and don't be surprised you see him in WWE a few months down the line. So
DC versus Drew McIntyre for next WrestleMania. Calling it now. I want it.
Because Kane is his good friend. Like DC, if there's a video over there, DC marking out for the main event at WrestleMania 31. He's sitting in the upper decks and just marking out when Seth cashes in the Money in the Bank. So yeah, DC's a mark, and he's gonna be in pro wrestling very soon.
Sure. Somewhere down the line.
Yeah. So that would have been a big fight too. That was a fight I was hoping to come to fruition too. DC versus Brock. Another $1 million pay-per-view by DC, by far the best heavyweight.
John Jones is a special guest referee.
Oh my god!
That would make it stipulations.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but then after the talk with that, Lesnar re-ups with the WWE again, which is the smart thing to do. You don't want to take those hits, and then he's back doing it again. And now we'll get to present time as of August 31st, 2020. Brock is no longer under contract with the WWE. So now the rumors swirl again. Brock Lesnar possibly fighting John Jones as his move up to heavyweight, which will another pay-per-view that will draw big money. I mean, unfortunately, they wouldn't profit off of a gate because of the COVID-19 and no fans.
Rates, man, you've marked them up.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You marked them up.
But there's a lot of rumors swirling around as Brock and John Jones, but
Brock even in Bellator is being talked about.
Brock versus Fedor in Bellator.
Dude, that would be
even though
they're past their prime. Like, it's a few years too late, but I mean, for the paycheck, maybe.
No, for the intrigue, and I mean, we're all fans. I'm not gonna lie and say we wouldn't buy it. You know what I'm saying?
I'd rather see Ngannou versus Lesnar. That's actually. But see, but Jones versus Lesnar is good because it's like Jones is moving up. What's he like at heavyweight? Even though I think naturally he.
Not only that, right now he's the greatest of all time. You know what I'm saying? And that's just and the curiosity of him fighting at heavyweight, which has been rumored for years for him to like move up in heavyweight. And John Jones has the skill set. He'll succeed anywhere, wherever he decides to fight and be dominant. Like he hasn't fought at heavyweight, but I see him beating Stipe. I see him beating a lot of guys.
Another
probably no problem.
Ngannou versus Jones as his entry. You want to come into the heavyweight?
Yeah. Even though Jones didn't look that great against the last fight against Dominic Reyes. But he's still.
Did John Jones get injured during that fight too? Because I know
possibly, but it wasn't a good show.
It was not pretty. Yeah. Do you think that Dominic Reyes should have won that fight or not? Do you think that it was right to go for John Jones?
It's usually. I mean, John Jones will be like he's kind of like, even though he was a champion. So I mean, he's
champion's advantage in that fight too.
Yeah, champion's advantage anytime. Like in order to beat a champion, I think not just in MMA, but in boxing as well. You really have to have a dominant performance against the champion.
Exactly.
So we could name so many, even though MMA mostly gets it right, even though there's GSP and Johnny Hendricks. That's another fight. You know what I'm saying? You could say Hendricks won.
That was Hendricks' fight, man. That was
but because GSP is, the champion, champion's advantage. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Even people say the second fight with Conor versus Nate Diaz, another close one, and Conor giving the advantage to Conor because of his star power. You know what I'm saying? It's So in boxing, that happens all the time. If you're the more
boxing judging is absolutely ridiculous, man. Yeah. Like that. What was it? Triple G versus Canelo.
Canelo. Yeah. There's a couple of them. Yeah. That boxing, we can be here for another hour just going through boxing. But for now, yeah, we're up to present time. So Michael, I'll ask with a final thought. What do you think Brock's MMA legacy would be?
For me, I think that it helped to make sure, it pioneered like UFC's pay-per-view market. I think that with Brock, we really started to see the buy rate start to come in and more the monetary viability of the UFC, especially after Zuffa came in there. So I think Brock's legacy is that he just brought a lot of money to the company. He was able to beat some of the best competition at the time, and a lot of what ifs, but still a pioneer for the sport, in my opinion.
Yeah. And Donovan, what would you
just
say?
Exactly what he helped bring, just bring people's eyes, onto the sport, and that's what the sport needed. And it's you never realize what a big star he was until you start seeing the pay-per-view buy rates. I don't think he's done. I really think this world needs a super fight. This world needs it.
At 43, if it's the fight to cash out, it would definitely be John Jones. That fight would be, it'd be cool.
Or they need a super card. They need something just like this world needs it. And I think Brock could be the savior for that, right? And
plus Brock got in. I want to say, to me, the golden age of MMA as far as the buy rates and the popularity was that time when Brock, between maybe 2007 and 2010, because another big star, well, not big star, but another influential star who's impactful was the late Kimbo Slice. Kimbo Slice was another guy, and they both kind of came in at the same time. You know what I'm saying? And it just a lot of background with Kimbo Slice, with his background in street fighting and coming in, and a lot of eyeballs. Kimbo Slice had the highest rated MMA, not a pay-per-view, was on Elite XC on CBS. He had the highest rated, most watched MMA.
That was the fight against Ken Shamrock, right?
No, that was a fight against James. No, James Thompson. Yeah, it's supposed to be Ken Shamrock and
Petrozelli is his last name.
Yeah, no. Well, all right. He fought James Thompson at that the big one. The second fight was supposed to be Ken Shamrock, and then Ken Shamrock had an eye injury right before, I think minutes or hours before the fight, and he pulled out.
Oh wow!
And then Seth Petrozelli came in, and that's how it went down. Kimbo and Shamrock redid their fight in Bellator, but it was really, it was more like a Benny Hill episode. It was just really uneventful. All right, guys, thank you for joining me. That ends the career, reviewing the career of Brock Lesnar. I want to thank you guys. This was really, really fun. This is my first MMA episode, and sprinkled with pro wrestling and all other things. I mean, you guys were the perfect guys to talk to, and I appreciate you guys. And Canada
in the plastic too. In the
send some Tim Hortons down here, man. I want some donuts.
Mike, do you have anything to plug before we leave, my friend?
Not really. You can find me if you want to find me on social media, I'm going to be starting to do some shows soon. MZim96 on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter, MZimmel on Twitter, or on my YouTube page, Michael Zimmelman. I'm going to be releasing some new content soon. I'm trying to get a fantasy football podcast started with my friend Charlie Meyer, so hopefully we can get that going. Johnny, thanks for having me, man. This has been fun.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Donovan, anything you want to plug, my brother?
Yeah, no, just I'm here, I am all talk, but the one thing is, for all those listening, and I guess comedians, sports fans, if you are like that lucky one that's been called by a bride and groom to MC their wedding because they love your personality and you do not know what to do, follow my page at WeddingMC101. and you'll learn how to do that.
Nice. Thank you guys, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, be safe out there in Canada and Long Island. Thank you again, man.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one. All right, guys, that was Michael Zimmerman and Donovan Fernandes talking Brock Lesnar. Tune in next week. Another guest, another team. All right, guys. My name is Johnny McDonald. Follow us again at Root for Laundry on IG and Twitter. My name is Johnny McDonald. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.